Hi guys, how you doing? I hope you're all well. So today I just wanted to make a video talking about case notes. This is something that I have wanted to share with you for a while. I did do a video on this a while before, but the quality just wasn't that great, so I've deleted it and I'm going to re-upload it. So I'm going to share 5 different tips on writing case notes, and then at the end I'm going to show you an example of a case note using a case study. I hope you guys find this video helpful. Please give it a thumbs up if you do find it helpful, and share with your friends. I'm sure you guys have social work friends that would find this channel beneficial as well, so definitely share with them and let them know about my channel, and yeah, get them to subscribe and watch my videos as well. But yeah, let's get right into it. So before I get into it, I just wanted to say case notes is probably like one of the tasks required when you're a social worker, and most people don't find it that exciting, to be honest. It's one of those things that we could definitely do without, but it's part of the job, and like it forms a big chunk of the work that we do. Oh, before I continue as well, I just wanted to say, yeah, thanks to my subscriber who, I think it's Saloni. She also recommended this video as well, so thank you. But yeah, so it's one of those tasks that we could do without and we're not interested in doing, but we have to do it. So these are some tips that will help you, I guess, stay proactive in doing them, and make it less daunting and less stressful when you're trying to put it together. So yeah, the first thing I would say is to try and stay organized. So you need to allocate time that you're going to be using to do strictly case notes, and you need to be really strict with this time so you don't take on other tasks during this, and that way you're able to keep on top of things. Because I think sometimes when it starts to pile up, then it starts to feel overwhelming and you're just like, oh, I'll do it later, I'll do it later. And by the time you realize you're like so behind, and there's new tasks and new clients that are coming in, and it's just piling and piling on top of you. So I recommend allocating a specific time that's going to be strictly for case notes and following through with that. So when it gets to that time, you don't take on new tasks, you go off the phone, take that time out and just do your case notes strictly. And my second tip is having a structure as you go when you're doing case notes. So knowing what you want to include in that case notes, knowing what you're wanting your whoever's reading the case notes to understand, knowing what what topics you want to cover in that case notes is important, because that way you have an idea of what you want to include in there, and everything is more structured and more organized, and you're not like thinking as you go. Because I feel like that way it helps, yeah, the task doesn't seem as daunting, and it doesn't look like it's going to take too much time either, because you know what you need to cover. And I mean, sometimes it can come across like, oh my god, I need to cover all these topics, and it is going to be a lot, but at the same time, at least there's structure and you know what you're doing in that case notes. So that's my second tip. The third tip is keep a template. So I think this is more applicable to report writing and to like writing support letters and things like that. I think keeping a template is very, very beneficial. It saves you time. Basically all you have to do is change the story around what's happening and change their name and the address and that kind of thing. So I have a template that I use for all my support letters, for all the women that I see. So basically when a support letter is requested, I just go in and change the personal details and that kind of thing, and that's pretty much it, and it's good to go. It saves you having to type a new letter over and over again every time a client requests for a support letter or a report or something like that. If you have a template, all you have to do is change the personal details, and that definitely saves you time, helps you to stay on top of things, and it doesn't seem as daunting again, so you just get it over and done with as soon as you can. That's my third tip. My next tip is use headings if you can. I find that using headings makes the case notes more readable. If someone else is reading it, it's easier for them to understand what's happening for the client, especially for me, because I'm an intake. I'm the first person that sees the client, so I gather as much information as I can, and I put it in topics, under topics, as I'll show you at the end of this video. I put everything in topics, so I'll do like education, previous counseling, background history, domestic violence history, childhood history, whatever I need to cover, I would include in there, and I'll do it in topics, so that way when the information is passed on to the next counselor, it's easier for them to run through, and understand and have a bit of a background around what's happening for the client. That way as well, your case note looks very structured and very well organized, and it's easier for you to read as well, and it's easier for you to get through when you're typing it as well. So yeah, that's definitely an important tip that I totally recommend. And my final tip is I think it's really important to keep improving every day. You know, besides, you know, being a social worker and improving the kind of work that you do with your client, I think it's important to keep improving your case note writing style all the time. That way you find what works best for you, and you know what would be the best way for you to be able to follow through and putting together your case notes on a daily basis. What will be the best way to save you time? What will be the best way to make sure people that are going to be reading this case notes will understand what you have to say as well? So yeah, just keep improving, keep reading about how to type case notes, keep reading about you know, read other colleagues' case notes, see how they do it, and see if there's anything that you can take from their style of writing, that kind of thing. So yeah, those are my 5 tips. Yeah, I'm gonna show you the example of the case notes at the end of this as well, so definitely stay tuned, guys. Right, I just wanted to just give you guys a bit of a case study, and then we can go from there. So this is the case study that I'm going by. So Sarah is a 50-year-old woman. Pardon me if I'm looking down. I've got the book here that I'm reading from. Sarah's a 50-year-old woman. She's lived with her husband for 20 years. There's been ongoing domestic violence. There was emotional and verbal abuse. Sarah disclosed that her husband has hit her several times throughout the relationship. This is generally relevant after they've had an argument. There was an incident last night where her husband choked her. The neighbors called the police because they heard her screaming. She does not want to return to the relationship, so basically the police got involved. He has been taken into custody, and the police recommended she attend our center. She doesn't want to return to that home because she's too fearful. She has 2 children with her. She has had relationship counseling with her husband in the past, but this didn't seem to work because she felt like her husband was being manipulative of the situation. She has been diagnosed with vertigo, so that's an ongoing issue for her as well. Her children are 6 and 2. Their name is Karen and Kyla. Karen is due to start school soon, and Kayla is still in her care all the time. Karen has started indicating some behavioral issues. She has hit other kids at school. She's had to attend the school for meetings several times because of Karen's behavior. And Kyla is constantly seeking attention from her. So she can never get time away from Kyla because she's constantly crying and constantly demanding attention from her. She has very limited support. So she has her mom who lives in another state. She has contact with her over the phone every now and again, but she doesn't see her very often. Sarah is unsure of what kind of support she wants at the moment. She's just very fearful of returning back to the house. She just wants the behavior to stop because she loves her husband. As an intake worker, this is what I did with her. I provided some crisis counseling. I talked about you know, the nature of domestic violence, provided some domestic violence education to her. I let her know what her options are around Start Safely, and which is like a housing program, you know, that she can get involved in if she wanted to. I explained to her her options of emergency accommodation and her options with the children, and I let her know what services we have within the center. I provided her with a few phone numbers for after hours support, and I let her know. I provided her with an emergency care pack. I provided her with food vouchers, and I provided her with a taxi voucher to access a refuge. Sarah did not want counseling at this stage. So yeah, that's pretty much the case study. Let's get right into the case notes. Hi everyone. So this is an example of the case notes that I was going to show you. So Pardon me if there's this like noise in the background. My computer is just really loud. It's really old, so yeah. But anyway, so this is an example of the case note I wanted to show you. So following that case study that I presented earlier on, this is what I've put together. So usually, depending on what kind of system you're using, the system that we use requires you to put in a heading. So that's why I've got this: client presented to the center in crisis counseling, material aid and information provided, no ongoing services provided at this stage. So I put that heading there so that if people are just wanting a brief around what happened when this lady presented without actually going into the case note, they know what kind of support was provided and what happened in that little section, in that heading over there. Primary record updated, that just means, I got the address, I got the full name, date of birth, all that stuff. So that's just there as an indication of that. And next thing you see is Sarah presented to the center to access support as recommended by the police. That gives a bit of a brief around how and why Sarah has accessed that service. Okay, and the first topic I've got is DV, which stands for domestic violence. And this is because I work in a domestic violence center. So that's basically the main, our core business, really. So that's why I have a separate section on that, for this particular case note. So depending on where you're working, if maybe you're working in child protection, probably the concerns with a child will probably be the main thing. So you would have a separate heading for that as well. So yeah, as you can see, I've done headings. I've got DV, I've got legal, I've got housing, children, physical health, previous counseling, supports, action. Action is basically what I've done for the client and what needs to be followed up. So if you look at the structure of these case notes, you realize that it's very easy to read, it's very easy to go through, it is very structured. So if I passed on Sarah to you to work with her, you will definitely have a clear understanding of what's happening for her just by reading these case notes. So I'm not necessarily going to go into every detail of the case notes, but I'll just show you a little bit just to give you an idea about what's important to include in a case note and the things that you can obviously leave out. Okay, so with the domestic violence, I've basically said how long she was with her partner for, and how long domestic violence has happened, what's the nature of that domestic violence that's happening. I gave an example of an incident that she spoke about and what led up to her getting involved with the police as well. So that gives a clear picture of what's happened in the past and how she ended up with the police. With the legal side of things as well, I've clearly stated when her next court date is. So it's about putting in the really relevant, important points that you feel like will be beneficial for the next caseworker or counselor or whatever to be aware of. So I've said here, when the next court date is. I've said clearly that there's an AVO in place, and I've said that the AVO is valid until this date. I've also spoken about housing, that she owns it with her partner, and obviously now she's homeless because she's had to leave because of domestic violence. I've spoken about the children, I've spoken about some of the behaviors they're indicating, um, you know, and where things are at with them as well because of everything that's happened. I've spoken about her physical health. I've basically said it's being managed by her GP, so it's an ongoing thing. I've said about previous counseling, what the nature of that has been, and whether she found it helpful or not. I've spoken about her supports. I've spoken about what I did to support her in this particular session. So I've just said, I provided crisis counseling. I've said I did some domestic violence education with her. I've talked about what services I spoke to her about. And I didn't specifically say, I just said, I informed her of counseling services available through our center. I didn't specifically explain what those services look like because within my center, obviously everyone's already aware of what services we provide. So if I just say, I've spoken to her about services we provide, you would know what services I'm talking about. So there's no need to include that in there. And then what I actually did with Sarah, I've spoken about, you know, us contacting and getting emergency accommodation. I've spoken about me giving her food vouchers and a taxi voucher and a care pack. Um, I've spoken about what information I provided to her as well. And I've made a separate section talking about follow up, you know, what needs to be followed up from here. So if something happens and I'm away or something, then anyone who's available within the center can come and have a look here, and they can provide support to Sarah in case she presents or in case she calls or in case, you know, the police want an update around what's happening with her. That is pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this a thumbs up if you found it helpful. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.